Hello, thanks for coming back to my channel. My name's Josh. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints who has recently been through a divorce. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about another book that I read that I found to be very helpful to me while I was going through the divorce process. But first I need to explain why this book helped me. One thing that's very common, at least I discovered when my ex and I were in counseling right prior to the divorce, was that I had kind of lost myself in my marriage. For a lot of reasons, and some of which I've described in the past, I just felt lost. Like I didn't know really who I was anymore. There was a couple therapy sessions that we had gone to, both as a couple and then within just by myself, that really kind of opened my eyes to this idea that I just didn't know who I was anymore. And once I was able to recognize it, it became very, very clear to me. And it was something that I had known for a long time, but I didn't know how to put it into words. So as I ended up going through the divorce process, I had a book that was recommended to me by a friend. And the book is called Wild at Heart. I'm going to show you right now. By John Eldridge. So this book I found to be such a wonderful tool in helping me kind of find myself again. It really was the beginning of that. John Eldridge is, just in all transparency, he's a Christian writer. So everything in this book is very much from a biblical perspective. So he's not a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but he is very openly Christian. And so throughout the book, he uses lots of examples from both the Old and the New Testament in helping men rediscover kind of who they are. And he talks a lot about masculinity and the purpose of masculinity and the gift of masculinity that God has given men. Now, there is another book that he and his wife wrote together called Captivating, and that one has to do a lot with femininity and the gift that God has given women, a femininity. And I've read sections and bits and pieces of that book. I found it to be very interesting. I don't know if it speaks to women the same way that the book that I read, really did for me. But I would encourage women to read it, especially if you feel like you've kind of lost yourself. Again, it's very biblically based, and his wife has a lot of input in that book. But back to the book that I want to talk about today, Wild at Heart. So he talks a lot about men needing to understand who they are. And that really starts with understanding that God is our Father, and that as a father, he has blessed us with certain gifts. And for men, a lot of those gifts we would call masculinity. And he gets quite a bit into it. I don't want to ruin the book. I recommend everyone read this book. Even if you're not going through divorce, I think it's a great book to read. But he talks about three key things that all men need. The first one is men need something to fight for. They need to feel like they are fighting for something in this world that is good. Another way of thinking of it is really men need to find their purpose. And that really is something that is between them and God. And once they find that purpose, that's the first step in men really kind of finding out who they are and how the gifts that God has given them can be utilized to really help the world. The second thing that he talks about, and this one is a little tough, especially if you're going through divorce, is a beauty to fight for. He talks about how really marriage, but when men find women who really captivate them, who really bring out kind of the best in them, it adds to that purpose that we have in our life when we find our purpose. And it actually strengthens that purpose, and it strengthens that resolve. And then there's kind of a synergy that is created between that man and his masculinity and the woman and her femininity, and the way it works together. And then the third thing that he talks about is men need an adventure to live for. And The easiest way to describe this is something that kind of brings you alive and pushes you and challenges you. It's very interesting. He's very clear actually in this book. There's lots of warnings because he'll talk about like tricks that Satan uses to kind of thwart us from our purpose. Or what happens when masculinity within let's say a relationship like a marriage, when it goes wrong, what happens and why it happens, and basically how Satan's kind of the author of that. And then he talks about with our own purpose, with this adventure. He mentions at one point, if your adventure ever takes you away from your wife and your children, basically if men, say I found my adventure and I'm leaving my wife and kids to go take care of that, then you're barking up the wrong tree. So he's very clear about that. But the adventure that we live is what helps keep us alive. And that may include things like, may include going on a physical adventure, include going to new places we've never been before. But it may also include learning a new skill. It may include meeting new people and becoming part of different social groups. It could mean starting a YouTube channel that you never thought you'd ever do ever in your life. Like me. Whatever it is, we have an adventure. And really, if we let God lead us in those adventures, that they will help us become the people we are supposed to be. That as we live out our purpose and we find our beauty to love, and as we work through our adventures in life, that ultimately we live a very fulfilled life, but that fulfillment is found in basically serving mankind and becoming the people that God wanted us to become. So, again, the book is called Wild at Heart. It's by John Eldridge. I've given you a very, very condensed version of it. I recommend that all men should read this book. And the book Captivating, that's by him and his wife, I assume, I'll say this much at least, the reviews are really good for the book, and so I assume it's good. So I recommend that one too. Again, my name is Josh, and I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This channel is not endorsed by the church at all. I'm not a counselor or therapist. I've just been through a divorce, found some things that have helped me, and hopefully they'll help you too. Thanks for coming to my channel.